welcome to Twisted Dice. I'm back with another video for you. This is Ace Face today, and I'm going to talk a little bit about Tyranid tactics, and starting off with Tyranids, what you need to think about when you're just considering moving over or starting your first army and it's going to be Tyranids. Hopefully this will be really useful for you. Before we get started, please do hit that like button, helps us out tons, and actually most of the people that watch our videos are not subscribed. Really trying to push that 10,000 subscriber mark, so if you could put that subscribe button on, again, that would really help us out tons. Thanks very much. And if you want to support us further, we've got a Patreon service. All the details are down below in the description. But let's jump onto this video. Okay, so you just decided that you're gonna go with Tyranids. This is the army that you're going to go with. Great choice. So you're off to a blinder straight away, let me say. So what have you got to do? So there's a few different things to consider, but the main thing I would suggest is start to think about how you're going to paint and model your army. So there are an array of great colour schemes that Games Workshop have given us. You can go Kraken, you can go Leviathan, you can go Behemoth, and there's plenty more as well. And for those armies, you've actually got some great guides. They've got the colours that you should use to follow them, and that's amazing. Really cool. The problem that you're going to find with that is from the get-go you are comparing your painting to heavy metal painters, and that's going to put you off in a really difficult position because you're going to struggle to ever perform to their ability unless you become award-winning painters. And if you do, happy days, great for you. But what you'll find is that journey is quite a painful one. So what I'd advise from the off is start to think about how you're going to make that army your own, how you're going to make it your own colour scheme, because not only will, from a modelling point of view and from a painting point of view, that give you the ability to do what you want and to take the army in your spin and make it your own, that naturally will make you stick with the army, stick with the painting much more than if you're just following and copying something else. But on top of that, when it comes to later on, when we talk more about how you're going to play your army and what high fleet you're going to use them for on the battlefield, if you paint your army in one specific high fleet, you're pushing yourself down one very narrow corridor, and you don't want to do that. Tyranids have loads of different ways to play, and some of the high fleets will really benefit different play styles. And at this stage, when you're starting, you don't even really know what that play style is. And on top of that, as new updates come down the road, that play style might well change. And again, you're putting yourself in quite a small little gap. So what I'd advise, join up with one of the many Tyranid Facebook pages. There's a couple that are really big, so jump on those, start to look for inspiration, decide what kind of colour schemes you want to use. Maybe there's one that you see there that really takes your fancy. Reach out, find out how they paint theirs, get some advice. Generally the community really wants to help each other, and the Tyranid community is a great community, so definitely look at that, do your research, work out how you want to paint them. Make sure you do some test runs, because this is a colour scheme you're going to have to paint for a long time, because every single model is pretty much going to be painted in the same way. So if you don't like painting that way and you find that out, then you're going to be in a bad place, and actually that might lose you steam going forward. So getting that right at the off may seem like a minimal thing, particularly if you're maybe painting's not your main thing, but actually you still want to have painted models. Most people do, and if you find that you're in a place where you're kind of feeling burnout because of the colour scheme you've chosen, it's going to make you go off Tyranids. So get that right. It's really important, really important. Okay, so after that, you now you've got an idea of what you want to paint your Tyranids. It's now thinking about making your first purchases, and what I would always advise with that is go for the start collecting set. Get one of those, even if none of those units ever make the table for you. It's great value. It will give you an idea of painting both big bugs and little bugs. That's really helpful, because you start to kind of decide how you're going to paint things, how you're going to model things, how you're going to base things. It's a really good start. It's excellent value. So that's the starting point. After you've got that, and and don't necessarily buy them from Games Workshop. Buy them from any of the third-party shops. There's always heavy discounts on them, and there's some great ones out there. I definitely recommend Goblin Gaming. They're really, really good, very reliable, really, really solid. So, but there's plenty of good ones out there. So grab your Start Collecting box set. Once you've got that, and you start to build them, make them, paint them in your colour scheme, the next stage is working out what you want to add to that. So have a look through your codex. It seems really obvious, but look through your codex, work out the models that you love the look of. Don't get transfixed by the rules at this stage, because things are moving so quickly in this game that by the time you're up and playing, things could have changed again. The important thing with Tyranids is you play with stuff that you love, that you think looks cool. That's the most important thing. So start to look through, decide what really floats your boat from the model range, because it's one of the best model ranges there are. There's so many amazing looking models, particularly the big bugs. I love them, but there's some great opportunities to buy some amazing models there. So have a think about that, and do not get transfixed by the competitive side. Really important, and I can't stress this enough, and I'll say this many times throughout the remainder of this video. Do not get caught up with that, because at this stage when you're starting the army, the important thing is you start to understand how the army works, how that is going to fit your playstyle. Stop thinking about what's necessarily going to win a competition, because maybe at this stage nothing will, maybe, but actually later on in your journey, then you'll be in the position to start to build an army that you know is going to be really competitive. Or maybe not. If you're going down a complete narrative reign, that's absolutely fine. But at this stage, you maybe don't even know that. So, and if you're a competitive player, this is probably not the guide for you anyway. So, look, just really go with your heart over your head. Don't worry about what they do on the table. That's really important. The next thing to think about, when you've got your models, many of the Tyranids have different ways to build them. They generally have shooty and they have close combat. Some of them have a mix of them both. That's generally the way they go. The natural reaction to anybody that doesn't know Tyranids is combat, and that's cool, and that may be the reason why you went for Tyranids in the first place. Do not write off shooty. Actually, pretty much since I've been with Tyranids, most of the time, their most competitive builds have been on the shooty side of the spectrum rather than the combat side. So I'm not saying don't go combat, but I'm saying don't write off shooting. Have maybe a combination of the two, but your best option is learn how to magnetize your options. Tyranids are one of those armies that it will be really useful in the long run if you can do it. Yes, it's not the most basic skill, but learn how to do it. There's some great tutorials out there on YouTube. I'll potentially do some more in the future for you, but there's loads out there. They'll show you how to magnetize so you can change those options around. Don't get caught in the trap of sticking to just one thing. Or if you are, then just be prepared the fact that you may find that things change and the way that you've modelled your army just doesn't necessarily work particularly well. But that's fine. That, you know, it is what it is. But definitely my advice is start to learn how potentially you can magnetize so you can keep your options open for future builds that you want to do. Just makes things really versatile. And actually, if you're into the whole modelling side of things, a really well magnetized model is a skill and an art of its own. So definitely something to think about when you're starting. The next thing, and this is one of the probably the most important things, and it harks on what we've already spoken about, is don't worry about how Tyranids perform currently. And you might watch this video when Tyranids are potentially amazing, or maybe they're terrible, or maybe somewhere in the middle where they probably are now. Don't worry about that, because again, things are going to change. The most important thing when you start a new army, and this doesn't just go for Tyranids, is once you've committed and you want to play an army, don't worry about how particularly good they are, because there will be strength within that codex and there will be strength within that army. You've just got to find it. But at first, it's about finding, one, your playstyle, how you like to play the army, but two, it's around learning what that army does, where its strengths and where its weaknesses are, and harnessing them. Don't get caught up by that whole feeling of, I don't have the strongest thing, because all you will do is punish yourself over and over again, because there are armies that do things much better and there always have been, and there always will be. But there are things that Tyranids can do better than other people, and that will change. That will change from edition to edition. So don't get transfixed on that. Make sure you keep yourself positive, optimistic, and learn that army inside and out. That will pay you dividends in the long run, I absolutely promise you. And the last thing before we end this video around some really quick tips on how to start with Tyranids is start to think about build styles. This is probably your most advanced thing that we've spoken about in this whole video, but generally Tyranids build in one of two ways. There are varieties, and it doesn't always have to be this way, but tend to go either heavy monsters or horde, tons of bodies and tons of numbers. Start to think about what floats your boat. Do you like the numbers game? Do you want to overrun with hordes, play that kind of game? Does that cinematically work within your mind? Or actually, are you into those big bugs? Is it the big bugs that do it for you? And they're what you want to smash through your opponent with big bugs. I'm not saying that one or the other is stronger right now, because that's not what this video is about. But start to think about how you want to build and how your style is going to come through as you start on your journey through Tyranids. So hopefully this video has been useful for you. Just some real basic tips on things to think about, things maybe you haven't thought about before, and hopefully that gives you a first step on your road to building your hive fleet. If you've got any questions, by all means chuck them in the comments. I'll be more than happy to answer them. And if you've got requests on other things you'd like to see, Tyranid based or anything else, again, chuck it in the comments. We're really always listening for, for future videos that we can do for you guys. But until the next video, I'm Aceface. Thanks very much for watching, and we'll see you again soon. Bye for now.